Now we'll hear from Rachel Zimmerman from Project SHIELD.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much to Dr. Skolnick, to Mr. Katzin, and for the entire committee that helped plan this event. It's amazing to look out from over here and just see people just keep coming and coming and coming. And it really is a testament to how serious this community takes this issue. I was asked to speak a little bit about what Project SHIELD does and a little bit about what we've been doing within the community within the past couple of years. This presentation aims at the most important advocates for child sexual abuse, which is the community. When someone's been victimized, it's very hard to come forward. It's hard for people to talk about intimate things in general, let alone when something really hurtful has happened to them. Most likely, when someone comes forward, especially for the first time, it's not going to be to a professional. It's not going to be to a therapist. It probably won't be to a hotline. Most likely, it's going to be to someone in this room, a community member, a family member, a teacher, someone they're close to, a friend. And that's why having these important events that aim at the community is the most important thing that can be done for victims. We have a helpline, and we do get victims who call that helpline. And I'll get to what we do when people call in a minute. But it's mostly people who call Project SHIELD are mostly community members, are mostly teachers, are mostly therapists, are mostly parents and siblings who suspect, who have heard that someone that they know and love is being sexually abused and want to know what to do. And I think that's wonderful. Because what Project SHIELD aims to do is help support the community to help support the victims. And that's the most important thing that we do. When a victim or family member calls Project SHIELD, we help first we listen. First and foremost, we listen. Because oftentimes, even if this is the person that's helping support them and not the person who's been victimized, it's very traumatizing. Having to speak to a family member or speak to someone else who's had to hear firsthand from someone they love that they've been sexually abused, they need to talk themselves. So first and foremost, Project SHIELD listens. We hear and we believe. There's been lots of studies that show that when someone's willing to come forward and to say that they've been sexually abused, one of the greatest indicators of how they'll heal is whether that first person they told, whether that person believed them and said, I believe you, and we're going to get help together. So that's what Project SHIELD does. That's the first step. The second step is then, depending on whatever they've told us, we talk about next steps. Whether that's calling the police, whether that's calling DCFS, whether that's getting them connected with a therapist, whatever it is that makes sense and is proper for that person in that situation. Now, since we're oftentimes talking to family members or people that are in a relationship with the victim, we give sample ideas, sample conversations to have with their kids, with the family member, with their student, to try to get that person to that next step. We've built relationships, which I'll talk about in a minute, in a formal way with the Chicago Police Department, with the Department of Child and Family Services, with a very important institution which was a part of the presentation last year called the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center, which does the investigations of this abuse. We've built relationships with them so that we can tell people, oh, for the interview, you're being sent down to the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center. Great. We know the head of advocates there. We can call ahead. We can make sure that you have what you need. We can make sure that your child isn't going to be, is going to be as comfortable as possible. The next thing we do is consultations. A lot of people who call us are professionals that are sitting right here in this room, but we get therapists, teachers, principals, resource teachers, camp counselors, and everyone in between, wondering about anything with the children that they're working with. I'm seeing this concerning symptom. What do you think I should do? This kid is trying to tell me something but hasn't really come forward with the entire story yet, but seems like something's on their mind. What do you think we should do? A lot of consultation questions. Another very important piece of what we do is education. Project SHIELD had the pleasure of partnering with the ATT and Madrigos Midwest last year and with all the Orthodox day schools in the city to provide parenting programs. Every school provided a parenting program, and we had close to 1,000 parents in all by the end of the year who were educated in how to talk to their kids and how to recognize child sexual abuse. We also do small parenting groups, which I have to say is my favorite part of my job, which is where we get small groups of parents together in their homes, 6, 7, 8 mothers, fathers, couples, whatever format. We meet with them for a couple of weeks in a row in the evenings so that we educate them on how to talk to their kids about their bodies and things like that. And at the same time, we answer questions on a very individualized basis. And if anyone's interested in helping put together small parenting groups, as I said, it's one of my favorite things, so please come up to me afterwards. Almost all schools in the community, I believe maybe even all, have had their staff trained in recognizing signs and symptoms of sexual abuse, and they continue to be trained. The camps every year train their counselors, a lot of the overnight camps, and in these trainings we talk about not just recognizing signs and symptoms of child sexual abuse, but handling disclosure when kids, start to drop hints, and also how to have safe relationships with children. There's a lot of professionals out there who are wonderful professionals and work well with children, but the world has changed. And then teachers need to understand, whereas 20 years ago, hugging a child may mean something different than it does today. So that's an important piece of the conversation that we have with teachers. Not necessarily a no-touch policy, but more a smart touch policy. What does this mean? How do we touch a kid? Do we touch a kid? The boundaries of the relationships. We also do professional training. Recently, Project SHIELD in collaboration with JCARES, which is a domestic violence task force, we put on 2 different trainings for professionals in the community, one having to do with the sex offender registry, and the other one having to do with problematic sexual behavior in children. These are things that professionals need to know in order to help the community in these issues. We also do cultural training. I myself have gone out to the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center and trained their investigators in working with Orthodox Jewish families. I've been invited to the local Department of Child and Family Services office next month to also train their case managers and their investigators in working with the Orthodox community, a very important piece. But lastly, and we do a lot of things within the community, and there's a list out in the front table, and I welcome questions and comments afterwards. But the most important thing of what we do is collaboration. We created a Project SHIELD Advisory Council, which meets every other month, and it is a group of professionals and leaders that work with kids and are all the different pieces to this process. And they come together to meet each other, to network with each other, so that when a case happens, there's someone from the state's attorney's office on the council. There's someone from the Chicago Police Department on the council. There's someone from the Chicago Children's Advocacy on the council. So that, let's say when a principal is going through a situation, Project SHIELD can say, great, we know someone at that place. Let's have you meet face to face. When all the people working with kids know each other face to face, that makes it a safer place to be. And I started out by saying that the community is the most important resource when it comes to victims. I like to believe that Project SHIELD helps create a safety net. We help create a safety net around victims so that when they decide to come forward, whoever they decide to come forward to, knows what to do, knows how to handle it, knows where to direct them. We want to keep expanding that safety net, not just within the professionals that I've mentioned, but within the community, within all the parents. And every time education happens, whether it's here or whether it's through Project SHIELD trainings, whatever it is, all those people have just become a part of the net. I had an interesting experience over the weekend. Of course, it always happens Erev Shabbos. My baby had to go to the hospital. She had pneumonia. We're standing in the ER waiting room. baby's screaming. The nurse is trying to do a triage. So she's like, okay, what's the temperature? What's the this? Tell me about the whatever. And then, of course, and then she throws in, and do you feel safe in your home? Are you a victim of domestic violence? And I turned around, and I'm holding the baby, and, and all of a sudden I turned around and I say to her, oh, thank you so much for asking me that. So, and I'm sure she's thinking, possible psych eval. But what I love about that is that just proves that we've created another piece of a safety net. Because there is no one that isn't important in checking, in talking, in knowing about all different types of violence within families so that we can be there for the community. By being here today, you have become a part of that safety net so that wherever victims may fall, you'll be there to catch them. Thank you.